Today, June 10th, marks 54 years of a failed coup attempt on the Robert Bradshaw Labour Party administration. On June 10, 1967, some men from Anguilla arrived on the shores of St. Kitts to overthrow the government as a means of protest against the leadership of the statehood of St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla due to poor living conditions on Anguilla. But does this incident, which happened over a half a century ago, have any bearing on the political and social construct of the St. Kitts Nevis society today? Opposition leader Dr. Denzil Douglas seems to think so. He believes this was the beginning of political division in the country.
Because I think it culminated to a large extent in what continues to be a division in the country. Not just political division, but to some extent, maybe, I would say class division. I would not say race, because 99% we are of one race, but class. And that is why, to some extent, the labor movement over the years, the labor government over the years, in attempting to break down those barriers, the class barriers. That is why I said what I said earlier at the beginning of this interview. I am proud of what has been achieved for the 20 years that I was there as the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, because I believe strongly, and within my heart, I believe that we made significant progress in the breaking down of those class barriers, where every single child, once you attain the age of 11 plus, you move into a high school where you can go on to university. University is no longer the yearning of a few. It is the yearning of the majority of our people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. That is why I say that it is the class structure that to some extent these guys try to re-entrench. But God Almighty allowed it to fail. And so we are now further on the path of breaking down those class barriers.
But for social and political commentator Dwyer Astafan, people today are not that concerned about what happened so many years ago. He said, while we should not forget that part of our history, there is little social and political impact of that attempted coup on St. Kitts and Nevis.
When Anguilla did what they did, the English sent in some policemen there. It was a little bit of a joke. Anguilla finally got separated. The English made sure that happened. They held on to it as an overseas territory because that was one of their tax havens. They had no longer any use for countries like St. Kitts and the sugar producers and banana producers and that sort of thing. So that in itself is a political implication, because the three-island arrangement was broken up. Nevis in the 1970s were preaching. In fact, the NRP was built on secession. NRP, I think, was founded in 1970, just 3 years after the 10th of June. And their main, if not only plank, was independence for Nevis. In the 1990s, Mr. Amory led an attempt to secede from the Federation in terms of the local politics. When I say local, each island and the federal politics and all kinds of things like that. I don't think that features in people's minds. And let's be honest about it. People are not particularly, especially in this day and age of materialism and instant gratification, people are not particularly concerned with what happened 54 years ago. It only becomes painful to you if something happens again. And that is why we must never forget things,
Mr. Astafan described his memory of the dramatic series of events in 1967.
I was at a dance at the factory center, and I heard the gunfire, the automatic gunfire. I was sitting next to Mr. Southwell's son at the factory center when I saw the muzzle of a gun come through at the back of the bar through a louver pointing in our direction. I took up my guys who were with me. We took our car and we went to Connery, where we hung out with some guys over there who were renting one of the beach bungalows, and we slept there the night. I called my father. He said, town is a lot of nonsense going on, don't come. We are okay, we're staying in the house. And so we went. The next morning I came into town. There was a pall. I mean, you could feel the weight of stress and tension and fear. And when I was coming down to Church Street to my home, I saw this face. I saw somebody appear on that street. And I'll never forget the look on his face. That person is now deceased. I'll never forget the look on his face. And that impact that was made on me was made before I really had gotten a full understanding of what had happened.
The history of the lead-up to that attempted coup in 1967 is aptly described in a book, Anguilla's Battle for Freedom, 1967 to 1969. I'm Andre Huey, reporting for SKN Newsline.